Hello, friends. About 99% of friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and helps the channel grow. Also, let me know in the comments from which country you are watching the video. You ever been so scared behind the wheel that you thought your heart was gonna rip clean out of your chest? I ain't talking about near-miss accidents or some road rage idiot tailgating you on a dark curve. I mean the kind of fear that grips your spine like an icy hand and don't let go, no matter how hard you floor it. The kind of fear that makes the hair on your arms stand up, even when you're drenched in sweat. Yeah, I've had a few of those moments in my time on the road. But there's one night that sticks with me more than any other, and I swear to you, if I hadn't lived through it myself, I wouldn't believe a single word of it. I just dropped off a refrigerated load out in Nevada, small town with more dust than people, and I was heading eastbound on Highway 50. They call it the loneliest road in America, and buddy, that ain't no exaggeration. No lights, no towns, no signal, and no help if you break down. Just miles of blacktop stretching out like a strip of nightmares. I had my thermos full of strong coffee, the kind that tastes like burnt dirt but keeps your eyes open, and a fresh playlist of old country tunes to keep me company. I thought it'd be just another long night behind the wheel, but I was dead wrong. About an hour in, I noticed something strange. My headlights were catching movement on the shoulder. I figured it was probably a deer or a coyote. Happens all the time out there. But then I saw it again, this time closer. It looked like a person standing just off the road, not moving, just watching. I slowed down a bit, squinting through the windshield. Could have been a hitchhiker, but they weren't thumbing for a ride, just standing there like they were waiting for something. When I got close enough to pass, I looked directly at him, and my blood turned cold. It wasn't just any person. It was a girl, couldn't have been more than 12 or 13, wearing a white dress that looked soaked in water, her hair hanging down like seaweed, and her eyes. God help me. Those eyes didn't have no white in them, just black, like empty holes drilling into my soul. I slammed the brakes so hard my rig fishtailed. By the time I stopped and looked back in the mirror, she was gone. Not walking away, not running into the dark, just gone, like she melted into the night. I sat there, engine idling, heart pounding, trying to convince myself I was just seeing things, maybe tired, maybe too much caffeine. But then the radio static kicked in, even though I wasn't tuned to no station, and out of that hissing noise came this whisper, clear as day. It said my name. I stared at the CB radio like it had grown teeth. My name had come through it, plain, as you hear me now, spoken in a voice that wasn't mine, wasn't anyone I knew, and didn't belong to any trucker I'd ever met on the highway. It wasn't loud or angry. It was slow, soft, almost playful, like a kid sneaking up on you in the dark. Charlie, it whispered again, and my stomach knotted so tight I felt like I'd swallowed barbed wire. Now, I ain't the kind of man that spooks easy. I've driven through blizzards, hurricanes, hell. Once even had a drunk come at me with a crowbar at a rest stop in Amarillo. But this was different. I turned the volume down to 0, unplugged the mic, and even yanked the power cable. Out the back, but the damn thing kept whispering, over and over, Charlie, Charlie, like it was trying to draw me in, coax me out of my cab. I shoved the mic under the seat, flipped the interior lights on, and reached for my glove box where I keep a little silver cross my mama gave me before she passed. I hadn't touched that thing in years, but right then I needed something. Anything to hold on to. I clutched that cross and sat in silence, my ears straining for any other sound. But all I could hear was the low rumble of the idling engine and the hiss of wind outside. Then the lights on my dashboard began to flicker. One by one, each gauge started to bounce. Fuel, temp, RPM. Like my truck had suddenly caught a case of the shakes. And then, all at once, every light inside the cab went out. Total darkness swallowed me, except for the dim moonlight cutting through the windshield. I sat there, frozen, sweating, trying not to breathe too loud. That's when I heard the knock. A soft, deliberate knock. Not on my door, not on the hood, but on the driver's side window, right beside my face. I couldn't move, couldn't even turn my head. It knocked again, same rhythm, 3 slow taps, like a child asking to come in. I finally found the nerve to turn my head, and I swear, to you on my life, that girl, the one I saw earlier, she was there, right there, standing inches from the glass. Her eyes met mine, black and bottomless, and her lips parted into a smile that wasn't human. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. Just smiled that awful smile like she was staring straight into my soul. Then she mouthed something, didn't speak it, just moved her lips real slow. Let me in. And just like that, every instinct I had screamed no. I don't know how I did it with my hands shaking so bad, but I threw the truck into gear, slammed the pedal, and peeled out of there like a bat out of hell. My tires kicked up gravel, and the whole cab shuddered as I tore down that dark highway. I didn't look back. Not once. I just kept driving into the night, hoping to outrun whatever the hell that thing was. But deep down, I knew I wasn't done with her yet. Not by a long shot. I drove for what felt like hours without blinking, hands locked on the wheel like they were glued there, white-knuckled and sweating so much I could barely grip the damn thing. The whole time, I kept checking my mirrors even though I didn't want to see nothing. My brain was racing, trying to come up with any kind of explanation that didn't involve ghosts or demons or whatever she was. Maybe it was a hallucination, right? I'd been on the road for a long stretch. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe it was some twisted prank. But then I remembered the way the CB whispered my name, the way she knocked like she'd done it 1,000 times before, the way the truck lights flickered like something was messing with the wires from the inside. And that smile, hell, man, I still see it when I close my eyes. I passed a sign that said there was a rest area in 10 miles, and even though every fiber in my body was screaming to keep going, I knew I couldn't. I needed to breathe, get out of the cab, and splash. Some water on my face, anything to shake the feeling that I wasn't driving alone. So I pulled in, engine still running, headlights bathing the empty parking lot in pale light. The rest stop looked like it hadn't seen a soul in years. Cracked pavement, flickering lights buzzing above the bathrooms, and a busted soda, machine leaning against the wall like it had given up. I parked near the entrance and took a deep breath. Just 5 minutes, I muttered to myself. In and out. I stepped out of the cab, and the cold night air hit me like a slap to the face. It was dead silent. No crickets, no wind, just that eerie stillness that makes your skin crawl. I walked up to the bathroom door, which creaked open before I even touched it. That should have been my cue to turn around, but like a damn fool, I went in. The place stank of mold and old piss, and the flickering fluorescent light above the mirror cast these long shadows that seemed to twitch when I wasn't looking directly at them. I bent down to the sink, twisted the rusty faucet, and let the water run. I splashed my face, rubbed my eyes, and when I looked up at the mirror, I nearly screamed. She was standing behind me. No reflection of the door, no sound of footsteps, just her. Drenched hair hanging down, white dress still, soaked, and them soulless black eyes staring through me like I wasn't even there. I spun around, heart jackhammering in my chest, but the room was empty. I was alone, or so I thought. That's when the faucet turned itself off. The handle creaked slowly to the right all on its own, and I watched, frozen, as the water stopped, midstream. The silence that followed was heavier than before, like the whole room was holding its breath. And then, from one of the stalls behind me, I heard the soft sound of breathing, slow, raspy, and wet, like someone was struggling to breathe through water. I didn't wait. I turned and bolted out of there, back to my truck, jumping into the cab and locking the doors. I didn't even look at the mirrors this time. I just floored it, burning rubber as I peeled out of that lot and back onto the black ribbon of highway. I kept driving like the devil himself was in the rear view. But the worst part? As I looked down at my dashboard, my GPS lit up on its own and the voice calmly said, Next stop, home. The problem was, I never entered a destination. Stared at that GPS like it had grown eyes. Next stop, home. It said it again, all calm and sweet like some digital voice trying to reassure me. But I hadn't typed nothing in. I hadn't even touched the damn screen since I left Nevada. My hands were too busy clenching the wheel like I was trying to choke the life out of it. I reached out real slow, hesitating like maybe that touch screen was gonna bite me, and tapped the screen to see what route it had pulled up. My heart near stopped when I saw the coordinates. It wasn't leading me back to my place in Texas, or to any truck stop, rest area, or way station. It was pointing me straight into the middle of nowhere, a stretch of road I didn't recognize, marked only as Old Creek Hollow. I didn't remember seeing it on any map, and I've been driving these roads long enough to know just about every back highway and shortcut worth taking. But there it was, glowing on my screen, bold letters, and a bright red route like the GPS was saying, this is the only way. I should have shut it off. I should have thrown the damn thing out the window. But instead, like some kind of fool caught in a nightmare, I kept driving. I guess I needed answers, or maybe I was just too scared to turn around. I don't know. What I do know is the deeper I went, the stranger the highway became. The trees on either side of the road got thicker, leaning in like they were trying to close the road behind me. The pavement got rougher, cracked and uneven, with faded paint lines that looked more like scars than stripes. And the air, man, the air changed. It got heavy, dense, like I was driving through syrup. Even with the windows rolled up, I could smell it. Wet dirt, rotten leaves, and something else. Something metallic, like old blood. My headlights caught movement again. First on the right, then the left. Just flits of something dashing through the trees. I kept telling myself it was deer, maybe coyotes, but deep down, I knew better. Then I saw the signs. Not the usual highway signs, neither. These were old wooden boards nailed to trees, hand-painted in runny black letters. First one said, "No turning back." I let out a dry laugh, the kind of laugh a man makes when he's close to losing his mind. A mile later, another one. "She waits for you." My stomach turned. Every nerve in my body was screaming at me to stop the truck, turn around and never speak of this again. But I kept going. I was gripped by some unseen force, like the wheel was guiding itself. The final sign was hanging from a rusted chain across a tree branch, swinging gently, even though there wasn't a lick of wind. It read, "Welcome, home, Charlie." I slammed the brakes right then and there. Dust kicked up in front of my headlights, and everything went dead quiet again. The GPS went dark, the dashboard lights flickered out, and for the second time that night, my rig died. In the middle of the road, only this time I knew she wasn't behind me. She was already inside. I didn't hear the door open. I didn't feel the air shift. There wasn't a creak or a whisper or the rustle of fabric. But I knew she was in the cab with me. The way you know someone's staring at you in a dark room, even if you ain't looking at them. That cold pressure in the air, the way your skin prickles like 1,000 needles are poking through. I could feel her there, sitting just behind me. I didn't dare turn around. My hands were shaking on the wheel and I was breathing so shallow it hurt. I could hear a sound, real faint, barely audible over the dead hum of the useless engine. It was the soft squelch of soaked fabric, like water was dripping onto the leather seat behind me. Then a breath, not mine, raspy, wet, right near my ear. I shut my eyes tight and whispered, "Please, just leave me alone." Silence followed, so long and deep that I thought maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. Maybe I'd finally lost it. But then, slow and deliberate, her voice came, right beside my ear. "You brought me home, Charlie." My blood froze. My mouth was so dry I couldn't even speak. I don't know what made me do it, but I reached into my jacket pocket for that silver cross again, the one my mama gave me, hand wrapped so tight around it that the edges bit into my palm. I squeezed it and whispered a prayer, one I barely remembered from Sunday school decades ago. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. As soon as I spoke the words, the air in the cab turned electric, like the charge before a lightning strike. Then, bang, the passenger side window shattered inward like something had hit it from the outside. Shards of glass sprayed across the seat, but when I looked, she was gone. No sign of her, just the open, empty seat and the creaking of the truck as it settled. I turned the key, desperate, begging the rig to start. Click, click, click. Then, on the fourth try, she roared back to life. I didn't waste a second. I shifted into drive and floored it. My tires screamed as I peeled out of that place, trees whipping past like angry shadows, and the road behind me disappearing in the mirrors. But here's the part that still haunts me more than anything else. When I looked in the rearview one last time, I didn't see trees or signs or that old crooked highway. I saw myself, not in the mirror like normal, but sitting in the road outside the truck. Same flannel shirt, same face, same wide, terrified eyes, just staring at me like I'd left something behind. And maybe I had. Maybe a piece of me never left Old Creek Hollow. Maybe part of me's still sitting there right now, waiting for the next poor soul to wander in. But I didn't stop. I didn't blink. I just drove, not caring where the road led, as long as it was away from her. I must have driven for hours without blinking. The clock on the dash was dead. No time, no date, nothing but a blank screen. But the stars above me shifted. The moon dipped low, and my headlights eventually caught the orange hue of dawn stretching over the horizon. I didn't even know what state I was in. No signs, no landmarks, just endless road and that numbness crawling up my spine like I'd left part of my soul behind. I finally pulled into a little truck stop just off some cracked two-lane road I didn't recognize. It looked old, like it hadn't changed since the 70s. Sun-faded gas pumps, a dusty diner with flickering neon lights, and a handful of other rigs parked around the side like tired beasts at the end of a long run. I cut the engine, and for a moment I just sat there, sweating, heart still pounding, listening to the tick-tick-tick of my engine cooling down. It was the first real quiet I'd had all night, and God, it felt like a luxury. I grabbed my cross, kissed it without even thinking, and slid it back into my pocket. I needed coffee, real coffee, something to burn the memory out of my throat. I stepped into the diner, bell jingling overhead, and this old waitress behind the counter looked up like she'd seen a ghost. "You okay, hun?" she asked, staring at me like I'd walked in wearing blood. I forced a laugh and nodded. "Just a rough night," I said, sitting at the counter. She poured me a cup before I even ordered, like she knew. I wrapped my hands around it, trying to stop the tremble in my fingers. "You see the girl?" she asked after a moment. I froze. The cup paused mid-air. My throat went dry again. "What girl?" I managed to ask, though I already knew. "White dress, wet hair, eyes like coal, shows up to truckers out on Old Creek Hollow," she said like she was ordering off a menu. "We've had 3 drivers come through here looking just like you. Not all of them made it back." My stomach turned. "What do you mean, not all of them?" She leaned in close, real serious. "Some come back empty, like blank. Can't talk, can't eat, just stare at the wall. One of them parked his truck out back, sat in the driver's seat for 2 whole days without moving. When someone finally opened the door, he was gone. Door still locked from the inside." My skin crawled. I glanced out the diner window at my rig, expecting to see her sitting in the passenger seat, smiling like before. But it was empty, for now. The waitress looked down at my shaking hands. "You're lucky," she said. "If she lets you leave, she always leaves something." "With you." That line hit me hard. I didn't even ask what she meant. I paid, thanked her, and headed out. But I felt it. That weight. That cold, damp presence that never quite left the cab. Like she'd tucked herself into the corners of my rig, waiting. Waiting for the right time, for the right night, for when I'm just tired enough to drop my guard again. I climbed into my truck, turned the key, and felt it rumble back to life. As I pulled out of that lot and hit the road again, I didn't bother turning the radio on. I didn't need it. Because behind the hum of the engine, beneath the whine of the tires, I could already hear her breathing. At first, I thought it was just the wind slipping through a crack in the window seal, or maybe the whisper of my tires against the pavement. But the longer I drove, the clearer it got. Steady, wet, rattling breathing, coming from right behind my seat. I didn't dare look in the mirror. I just gripped the wheel tighter and pressed the pedal a little harder, hoping speed would somehow outrun whatever I dragged with me. The miles passed like molasses, and the sky, though bright with morning light, felt wrong. Too pale. Too washed out. Like the sun was trying to rise, but something was holding it back. I passed a green road sign. At least it should have been. Green. But it was bleached bone white, the letters smeared like someone had tried to wipe the name off. No town name, no mileage, just a smear of what looked like black fingerprints across the top edge. That's when my headlights, still on, even in the daylight, flickered, and then I heard it again. Not the breathing. Words this time, real soft, like someone was whispering them right into my ear. "You said you'd bring me home." I slammed the brakes, couldn't help it. The truck skidded hard, tires squealing, and the trailer fishtailed just slightly behind me. I came to a stop dead center on a stretch of cracked asphalt, with nothing but dead fields on either side. I turned in my seat finally and looked back. Nothing. Empty. No one there. I let out a breath. I didn't realize I'd been holding. Maybe I was just losing it. Maybe the whole night had finally caught up with me. I turned forward again and nearly screamed. She was right there, in the middle of the road, directly in front of my truck. No noise, no warning, just there. Soaking wet, hair clinging to her face, eyes black and hollow, that same crooked smile carved across her pale lips. She wasn't moving, just standing, staring, arms limp by her side. I couldn't move, couldn't blink, and then she tilted her head slowly, so slowly it made my bones ache just watching, and mouthed the same words again. "You said you'd bring me home." And that's when it hit me. She didn't mean my home. She didn't want to go back to her home. She wanted to make a new one. Inside me. I threw the truck into reverse, slammed the gas, and backed up fast enough. I nearly jackknifed the whole damn rig. When I stopped and looked forward again, she was gone. Vanished. Not a trace. But the air inside the cab. It was colder than ever. My breath hung in front of me like smoke. I sat there shivering, heart thumping, realizing that I could drive to the ends of the earth and it wouldn't make a lick of difference. Because I wasn't just haunted. I'd been claimed. And no matter how far I ran, no matter how many truck stops I hit, no matter how many miles of open highway stretched ahead of me, she was coming with me. I didn't say much for the rest of that drive. Hell, I barely breathed. Every bump in the road made me flinch. Every shadow that passed my mirrors felt like it was reaching in to grab me. I kept telling myself over and over, just make it to the next town. Just find people, find noise, find light. That's what scares these things off, right? Light, people, reality. I must have driven another 100 miles before I finally rolled into a little trucker town off Route 18. Small place, maybe 6 blocks wide, with a diner, a repair shop, and a mom-and-pop motel that had half its letters missing on the flickering neon sign. I pulled into the truck lot behind the diner, parked under one of the tall sodium lights, and just sat there for a minute. The engine ticked as it cooled, and outside, the wind rustled through the trees. But inside the cab, It was like time stopped. Cold. Still. Watchful. I opened the door real slow, hoping that if she was in there with me again, I wouldn't disturb her. Ain't that crazy? Being afraid to wake up whatever you're riding with? I slid down out of the cab, boots hitting the gravel with a crunch, and the moment I did, I swear the truck exhaled behind me. Like she was letting me go. For now. Inside the diner, I ordered a coffee and sat at the window, staring out at my rig. I didn't want to take my eyes off it. Part of me was scared it'd be gone. The other part was scared I'd see her in the driver's seat, waving at me like we were old friends. The waitress, a sweet lady named June, kept asking if I was all right. Said I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I wanted to tell her she was wrong. I didn't see a ghost. I'd picked one up, and now she wasn't letting go. I stayed in that town for a few days, longer than I ever parked in one spot. Tried sleeping in the motel, but I'd wake up every hour to the sound of knocking. Soft, wet, familiar. 3 taps. Always 3. One night I opened the door real fast, hoping to catch whoever or whatever was doing it. Nothing but a puddle at the threshold. No rain that night. Clear skies, dry streets. Just that single puddle and a trail of damp footprints leading toward the lot where my truck sat waiting. I walked out there, heart pounding, cross in my hand. Climbed up into the cab and checked every corner. Empty. Still smelled like her, though. Like river water and grave dirt. I tried to sleep there that night, figuring maybe if I stayed close, she'd stop knocking. But that was the night I had the dream. Or maybe it wasn't a dream, I'm still not sure. I was behind the wheel, driving through heavy fog, couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead. The CB radio crackled to life, even though it hadn't worked in weeks. A voice came through, her voice, whispering a lullaby, real old, real sad. One I swear I've heard before, maybe as a kid. Then she started talking. "He brought me home," she said, over and over. "He brought me home. He brought me home." The fog parted and I saw the road signs again, those same ones from Old Creek Hollow. No turning back. She waits for you. Welcome home, Charlie. That's when I woke up, soaked in sweat, breathing like I'd just run 10 miles, and etched into the inside of my windshield. No paint, no marker. Etched were those same words. He brought me home. I stared at those words, hands trembling, breath hitching like I'd been sucker punched. He brought me home. Not scratched with a knife, not written in some foggy glass. No, this was cut into the windshield, deep, clean, like it had been done by someone who had all the time in the world. And the thing is, I'd been sleeping in that cab all night, alone, or so I thought. I ran my fingers across the letters, hoping, praying, they'd flake off like some prank, maybe road grime or a trick of the light. But I felt every groove, sharp, permanent. She'd marked my rig, stamped it like a damn return address. I couldn't take it anymore. I drove straight to the nearest mechanic, a quiet older fella named Hank, and told him I needed a full inspection, windshield, replaced, wiring checked, and if he could, I wanted the interior steam cleaned. He gave me a funny look but didn't ask questions. Folks like him knew better than to pry when a man walked in looking like death warmed over. I killed time at the diner again while Hank got to work. Tried reading the paper, tried making small talk with June, but nothing stuck. My mind kept going back to her. How she'd sounded, how she'd smelled. That crooked grin and those eyes like dark, bottomless water. An hour later, Hank came strolling in, his hands black with grease and his face pale like he'd just crawled out of a freezer. He sat down across from me without asking. "You been driving that truck long?" he asked, voice low. I nodded, suddenly real uneasy. "Yeah, years." He leaned in, looked me dead in the eye. "You ever haul anything from the old counties? Near Belridge? Maybe out past Whisper Pass?" I blinked. "I did a few loads through Belridge a while back, yeah." "Why?" He rubbed his jaw. looked out the window at my truck like he was afraid it might hear him. There's stories about that stretch, about things getting in your truck that ain't supposed to. Folks who drive that route sometimes bring something back with them. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. He saw the answer on my face. Whatever's riding with you, he said. It don't want your truck. It don't want your route. It wants you. That chilled me to the bone, because deep down I'd known it. I wasn't just haunted. I was chosen, marked. And no amount of windshield replacements or backroads detours was going to change that. Hank slid me the keys and said the rig was ready, but warned me real quiet. If you start hearing her name in your head, don't answer, no matter what. Don't speak it out loud. That's how she gets in. I nodded, thanked him, and walked out, feeling like I was carrying a weight bigger than any load I'd ever hauled. I climbed back into the cab, turned the key, and sat there for a minute, hands on the wheel, staring through the fresh glass. No marks, no fog, no whispers, just the quiet hum of the engine. I took a deep breath, pulled out of that lot, and hit the road again, watching the horizon like it might reach up and swallow me whole. But it wasn't the road I was afraid of anymore. It was the quiet, the stillness, the space between the hums of the tires, because that's where she waited, where she lived. And somewhere deep down, I knew she wasn't done with me. Not even close. I figured maybe if I kept moving, she couldn't get a grip on me. Maybe if I stayed ahead of her, kept the engine running, windshield clean, cross around my neck, maybe she'd give up. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. She wasn't hitching a ride anymore. She was driving. First sign was the radio. I was hauling a load of dry goods up to Wyoming. Late night, cold air sneaking in through the vents no matter how high I cranked the heat. The CB had been quiet for hours, not a peep from other drivers. Then, out of nowhere, the static kicked. In, loud and sharp, and in the middle of it, clear as a bell, a little girl's voice whispered, "Left. Left. Left." I jerked the wheel out of reflex and barely missed a deer darting across the highway. If she hadn't said it when she did, I'd be roadkill. But that didn't feel like help. That felt like control. Next thing I knew, my GPS started glitching, maps disappearing, voice directions repeating themselves, telling me to make a U-turn, even when I was on a straightaway with nothing around for miles. One time it told me to turn off onto a dirt road that didn't even exist on the screen. No signage, no markers, just black woods and fog so thick it looked like smoke. I didn't take that turn, but I wanted to. Something in me itched to turn the wheel, to just see what was down there. It felt like I was being pulled. And then came the dreams again. Worse than before. Vivid. Too real. Always the same setting. Dark highway, dense fog, and a gas station that didn't exist in real life. I'd walk in, hear the hum of the freezers, see a mirror above the bathroom sink, and every time I'd look into it, I wasn't there. Just her, smiling. Saying my name over and over again until I woke up breathing so hard I thought my chest might explode. But the worst was what happened in Idaho. I'd pulled over at a rest stop off I-84, middle of nowhere. Just needed a nap, 20 minutes. Tops. Locked the doors, pulled the curtain, and laid back in the sleeper. I woke up to a knock. 3 taps. Always 3. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just listened. A pause. Then 3 more. Closer. Inside the cab. I sat up slow. Heart hammering. Reached for the flashlight by my side and clicked it on. Nothing. But the curtain? It was open. Just a little. Like someone had peeked in. I crawled forward and looked into the driver's seat, and I swear on my life, I swear on everything I've ever loved, I saw the imprint of someone sitting there. Indent in the seat. Damp, still warm. I threw that curtain shut so fast I nearly tore it, turned the engine on, blasted down the highway without even checking my route. I didn't care. I just needed to move. I kept driving till the sun came up, till my eyes felt like sandpaper and my knuckles were white from gripping the wheel. I kept thinking about what Hank said, that if I heard her name I shouldn't say it. Don't speak it out loud. But I knew it now. Somewhere, deep in my bones, I knew her name. It was hanging in the back of my throat like a splinter begging to be said. But I didn't. I haven't. Not yet. Because I think the second I do, the second her name leaves my lips, she'll be me. Not beside me. Not behind me. She'll be me. So I keep moving. Keep hauling. Keep pretending like it's just another long stretch of empty highway. But I ain't fooling myself anymore. She's in the engine hum. She's in the shadow behind my seat. She's in the damn mirrors. And every night I stop, I hear her breathing. Closer, slower, waiting for me to say it. But I won't. Not yet. Because once I do, this road ends. I've been thinking lately, maybe this whole thing didn't start in Belridge. Maybe it started before that, and I just didn't see the signs. You drive long enough, cross enough back roads and trucker towns that don't show up on no map, and eventually, something sticks to you. Something finds you. I remember one night, years back, when I picked up a load from a place out in eastern Texas. Place wasn't even on the bill of lading. They just said Warehouse 43, nothing more. Real sketchy spot, rusted gates, no signage, and the fella that handed me the papers, he wouldn't look me in the eye. Just kept muttering under his breath, sounded like a prayer or maybe a curse. I chalked it up to bad drugs or superstition. But that night, I swear I saw someone hanging onto the back of my trailer in the rear view, shadowy, crawling. When I stopped to check, there wasn't nothing there, but I felt it. Felt like I'd picked up more than freight. Fast forward to now. And I think maybe she's not the first. Maybe she's just the only one strong enough to stick, to stay. It's not like I can talk to anyone about it. The other truckers, sure, they've seen stuff. Phantom hitchhikers, ghost lights, even time slips. But none of them got something riding with them. You ever feel watched? Not just glanced at, not just noticed, but watched, like something's studying you? That's what it feels like in my cab now, every minute of every mile. Doesn't matter if the sun's out or the radio's playing classic rock or if I'm laughing at a CB joke, I feel her eyes. They're always right there. Couple nights ago, I stopped at a way station just to break up the drive. Took a stretch, got a soda, chatted with a fella named Rick who swore he'd once seen a man walking down I-70 with no face. I laughed, told him that sounded like something out of the Twilight Zone. But the second I turned back toward my rig, my stomach dropped. You ever seen your own truck looking unfamiliar? Like a stranger? I swear the shape of the cab was wrong. The shadow cast by the trailer stretched the wrong way. The lights flickered like eyes blinking. I walked slower than usual, every instinct screaming at me to turn around. But I had to go. Had to get back in. I opened the door, climbed in, and froze, because sitting in my passenger seat was a bouquet of wet, dead lilies, just laying there. No note, no explanation, just those flowers, reeking of river water and rot. I didn't touch 'em, just stared at 'em till they shriveled to black in the heat. I ain't told anyone that part. Too strange even for this line of work. But it ain't just her anymore. I'm starting to believe she's opening doors for others, like she's a gate, and I'm the vessel. Ever since that night, I've seen shadows move outside my mirrors, even when I'm flying down the interstate. I've heard knocks from beneath the trailer. One time I saw handprints on the inside of my windshield while I was driving. I wiped them off, but they came back the next day, even darker. And sometimes, when I'm driving through those long, empty stretches of desert or forest or swamp, you know, the kinds of roads where even the GPS gives up, I feel like the road itself is watching. Like the asphalt's waiting for me to fall asleep, to slip up. Because that's when they'll come. And not just her anymore, them. I don't sleep easy no more. I don't rest. I just roll. Keep moving. Because the second I stop for too long, they get bolder. And I can't let that happen. I won't. I've been running on fumes, mental, emotional, spiritual. Whatever part of a man keeps him tethered to reality. Mine's wearing thin. I used to love the road, you know. The hum of the engine, the rhythm of the tires against pavement, the stars over the cab at night. It used to feel like freedom. Now it feels like I'm being stalked by the end of something. I stopped in Nevada recently. Little nowhere spot called Shale Ridge. Not even big enough to have a sign. I only pulled in because I was getting dizzy behind the wheel, swerving just enough to know I needed a break before I ended up wrapped around a guardrail. I parked next to a rusted-out tanker that looked abandoned. Engine still warm, though. Which was strange because I hadn't seen another rig on the highway for miles. Went into the diner, same story as always. Old neon, flickering overhead light. Jukebox stuck on some sad Conway Twitty tune from 20 years back. I sat at the counter and ordered coffee, black, no sugar. Didn't even finish it. The waitress looked off. Her eyes didn't blink at the right times, like she was listening to a conversation I couldn't hear. And every so often she'd glance out the window at my truck with this expression. Not fear, not curiosity, recognition. Like she knew it, like she'd seen it before. I finally asked, just to break the silence, "You all right, ma'am?" She stared at me real slow, like her thoughts were swimming through molasses, and said, "You shouldn't be driving that rig." My heart just about stopped. "What do you mean?" I asked. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "That ain't a truck anymore." I didn't finish my coffee. Didn't pay either. I just stood up, heart pounding, walking back out into the dark with every fiber of my body telling me to leave it behind. Just walk away, don't even look back. But I couldn't. That rig, it's more than a truck now. It's a damn chain. I climbed back in, cab feeling colder than it had any right to be, and sat there for a minute, engine rumbling like it was laughing at me. I checked the passenger seat, empty. Glanced in the sleeper, nothing. Then I looked in the side mirror and saw her, not standing behind me, not on the side of the road, in the mirror, just staring. And her mouth was moving, but there was no sound. Like the mirror was showing me a place where she existed, but couldn't quite reach me. Not yet. That mirror's been foggy ever since. Wipe it clean, comes back. Replace it, the fog still spreads. I duct-taped a towel over it, but every now and then I see it shift in the corner of my eye, like someone's leaning in from the other side, breathing heavy. I know I should stop. I should end this. I should pull over, light a match, and walk away while that truck burns to hell. But I can't. I don't know if she's got her hooks in me, or if I've somehow latched onto her. Maybe I crossed some invisible line, between the world of the living and the one just on the other side of the fog. And now, I'm stuck in between. And here's the kicker. Every time I think about quitting, I hear her voice. Not from the radio, not from the mirror, from inside me. Like she's learning to speak through my own breath. I'll be talking to someone at a rest stop and suddenly I'll say something I didn't mean to. Words I don't remember formulating, like, "It's warm down there," or "The river's always hungry." The hell does that even mean? And every time I catch myself, it's like waking up from a dream mid-sentence. I've been keeping a recorder on now just to track what I say, played it back the other night, and I heard her voice layered under mine. Faint, wet, laughing. I turned it off, smashed it with a wrench. Didn't help. I still hear her when I close my eyes. And the worst part is, she ain't asking for help anymore. She's waiting for me to finish the ride. Because when I do, she's coming with me, or maybe I'm the one going with her. So I kept on driving, trying to outrun something you can't outrun, something that lives in your shadow, that crawls inside your thoughts like mildew in the walls. I told myself if I could just make it to the coast, just see the ocean. Again. Maybe I could drown whatever this was. Rinse her out of my soul like salt water cleaning a wound. I pointed the rig west and didn't stop for nothing. Didn't matter if my eyes burned or my stomach twisted up from gas station burritos and coffee strong enough to melt chrome. I kept the wheels turning. But the further I drove, the stranger the road got. Not just the scenery, the road itself. First thing I noticed was the mile markers. I passed 137 3 separate times. Exact same busted-up sign with a bullet hole in the corner and a snake coiled underneath. The third time I saw it, I pulled over, got out, kicked the dirt, marked it with a big X using orange spray paint I kept for emergencies, drove off. 10 minutes later, there it was again. Mile 137, snake and all, spray paint gone, like I hadn't done nothing. I laughed, a dry, cracked sound that didn't feel like it belonged to me, and said out loud, "All right, I get it. I'm not leaving, am I?" That's when the static started. Radio burst alive with white noise, then whispering. Not English, not any language I knew, just soft syllables spilling out like wind through dead branches. And then came the knocking. That same pattern, always 3. But now it wasn't coming from the cab. It was coming from underneath. Like something riding in the guts of the truck. Knocking upward from the fuel tank, from the axle, from the steel bones of the machine. I floored it. Got up to 85, pushing 90, hauling 18 tons of who knows what. Didn't care. I just needed noise, speed, distance. But you can't outrun something that's inside you. You can't burn out what's already rooted deep. I started seeing things out the windows. Buildings that shouldn't be there. Churches. With no doors. Gas stations lit by fire instead of electric light. And people just standing still on the sides of the road, faceless, staring as I roared by. One time I passed a kid riding a tricycle in the middle of the desert, just pedaling along the shoulder like it was a neighborhood street. I blinked, and he was gone. Looked in the mirror, and guess what? She was there again. Only this time. Her face was clearer, pale, sharp. Her eyes weren't black like in the movies. They were white, pure, dead white, like fish eyes. And she wasn't whispering. She was smiling. Big, teeth-too-small smile, like she was proud. Like she'd won. I damn near jackknifed the trailer. Pulled off onto a dirt path, tires kicking up gravel and dust, heart hammering so loud I couldn't hear the engine anymore. I stopped, slammed the door, and walked away from the truck for the first time in weeks. Just walked. Didn't know where I was going. Didn't care. Trees all around. Some kind of twisted forest, I swear, hadn't been on the map. The ground was soft, wet, like swamp mud, but there wasn't no water in sight. And that's when I saw it, an old road sign half buried in moss. It read, "End of the line." No highway number, no direction, just that, end of the line. And below it, scratched in with what looked like fingernails, was my name. Full name. First, middle, last. My real name. Not the one I use on the CB. I turned and ran. Didn't think. Just ran. Back to the truck. Back to the only thing that still felt like mine. Climbed in, slammed the door, started the engine, and for a second, I swear the cab felt warm. Comforting almost. Like she was telling me, "You made the right choice." That's when I knew. This truck ain't just haunted. It's hers now. Maybe it always was. Maybe I've just been driving her bones across the country, leaving bits of her behind like breadcrumbs. And the more I drive, the less I feel like myself. Like I'm not just a driver anymore. I'm the delivery. I don't know what's waiting at the end of this road, but I know one thing, she does. She's been waiting for a long, long time. And every mile I travel brings me closer to wherever she calls home. The other night, I don't even know what state I was in. Just that I'd been driving through darkness so thick it felt like oil on the windshield. I passed by a rest stop that wasn't marked on the GPS, didn't have any lights, and didn't show up on the road signs. No cars in the lot, no trucks. But the sign flickered just enough in my high beams for me to see the words, Traveler's Hollow. I should have kept going, should have let the gas pedal stay down and the past stay buried. But something about that name, it pulled me, like it was meant for me. I turned in and parked, engine ticking as it cooled, the kind of sound that usually gives me comfort. Not this time. This time it sounded like breathing. I climbed out, boots hitting cracked pavement, and stood there a moment, just listening. No crickets, no wind, not even the hum of distant semis. Just silence so deep it felt like a pressure in my ears. The rest stop looked like every other one. Concrete bathroom building, couple of wooden picnic tables, soda machines with logos faded to ghosts. But there was something wrong with the air. Heavy. Like breathing in a dream you couldn't wake from. I walked to the bathroom and pushed open the door. Inside, the lights flickered once, then steadied. It was cleaner than I expected. Almost too clean, like no one had ever used it. I stepped up to the sink and splashed cold water on my face, gripping the edges of the porcelain just to steady myself. When I looked up into the mirror, I wasn't alone. There she was again, behind me. Not smiling this time, not whispering, just staring. Her head tilted, white eyes wide, and her mouth opened like she was about to scream. But no sound came. I turned around fast, nothing there, just the empty bathroom. But when I turned back to the mirror, she was still there, closer now. I didn't wait. I bolted out of there and ran back to the truck like a scared dog, hands shaking as I tried to shove the keys into the ignition. When the engine roared to life, I slammed into reverse, backed out fast, and peeled out of that rest stop like it was on fire. Only when I was a few miles down the road did I finally breathe again. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't left her behind. That place, Traveler's Hollow, it wasn't a rest stop. It was a trap. A pit in the road meant to catch drivers like me, people who already got one foot in the grave, people she can pull the rest of the way down. I've passed more places like that since. No names, no lights, just pulls. The highway's changing, twisting. Roads I know like the back of my hand suddenly take me somewhere else. The lines on the pavement bend, stretch, vanish. I drive in circles sometimes, and still feel like I'm going deeper, like the road itself is taking me where she wants to go. And the CB, it started acting up again. Voices coming through, not truckers, imitations. Like something trying to sound like a person but not quite getting it right. I'll hear my name, then laughing, then silence. The other night someone said clear as day, "You're almost there." I ain't said a word back. Not once. Not since all this started. I figure if I answer, it'll make it real. And if it's real, then I don't know if I'll be able to stop. But I can feel it. Every mile. Every breath. I'm getting closer. To the place where the dead whisper and the road don't end. Where the lines on the asphalt turn to veins, and the truck ain't hauling freight anymore. It's hauling me. Straight into the dark. I drove through a stretch of highway last week that I swear wasn't on any map I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of maps in my time. Old school fold-outs, GPS, even those weird back-road atlases truck stops still sell. Near the candy bars and windshield wipes, none of them showed this road. It started just past a crumbled mile marker that had no number left on it. Just a jagged piece of rebar sticking out like a broken tooth. The pavement was cracked and wavy like it had been melted and refrozen, and the trees on either side leaned, in over the shoulder, like they were trying to listen. I figured I'd take it for a few miles, maybe cut around the storm clouds I'd seen brewing behind me. But after 10 minutes of driving, I realized I hadn't seen a single turnoff. No road signs, no other cars, not even a dead possum. Just me, the rig, and the black ribbon of asphalt stretching into the dark like it didn't have an end. Then my lights caught something moving. Up ahead in the distance, right in the center of the road, someone was standing there. First, I thought it was a hitchhiker, maybe a stranded driver. I slowed down just enough to get a better look. But as I got closer, my gut started twisting. This figure wasn't waving, wasn't holding a thumb out, just standing there, stiff, like a damn statue. Pale as frost, with arms hanging down by its sides, and a face I couldn't quite make out, like the light just slipped off of it somehow. I stopped the truck about 20 feet away, hit the high beams, and that's when I saw it wasn't just a person. It was her. The girl from the mirror, from the radio, from my damn dreams. Only this time she was real. She was outside, the truck, and she was smiling. Her mouth opened, and I swear to you, what came out wasn't a scream or a voice or even a sound. It was pressure. Like all the air around me got sucked away. My ears popped, the windows fogged, and I couldn't breathe. I slammed the truck into reverse, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the engine, and backed up down that warped road like a bat. Out of hell. She didn't move, didn't chase me, just watched, her head slowly turning to follow the rig. When I finally backed far enough that she disappeared into the night, I spun it around and floored it, not caring where I ended up as long as it was far from there. That road didn't exist the next day. I tried to find it again, retraced my GPS logs and fuel stops, but it was gone, like it had never been there to begin with. But I know what I saw, and now it's getting worse. I'm not just seeing her on the road anymore. She's showing up in reflections, puddle water, chrome bumpers, even the coffee in my mug. I close my eyes and she's there, whispering things I almost understand. Names, places, numbers. Sometimes I wake up in the sleeper cab with my hand on the ignition, even though I don't remember crawling back there. Once I woke up with dirt on my boots and pine needles in my pocket, and I hadn't stopped near a tree in days. I don't know what she is. A ghost, maybe. A curse. Something older than either of those, maybe. Something that rides the blacktop and waits for drivers like me, ones who spend too long alone, ones who go too far from the cities, too far from the maps. I keep telling myself I'll pull off for good, find a motel, ditch the truck, disappear. But every time I try, the GPS reroutes itself. The radio crackles to life. And I hear that voice smooth as oil and twice as slick saying, "Almost there, driver." Almost where? I don't know. But I got a real bad feeling that when I get there, I ain't coming back. Last night, something happened that near made me hang up the keys for good. I was riding through a patch of desert highway. No towns for 100 miles in either direction. Just sand, dust, and telephone poles leaning like tired drunks in the wind. The kind of stretch where even your thoughts echo too loud. I was cruising around 60, just letting the road hum underneath me, when the sky lit up out of nowhere. Not like lightning. This was green. Sickly green, like antifreeze or rot. The whole sky shimmered like the northern lights had lost their damn minds. Then came the sound. A deep, thunderous rumble, but it wasn't from the sky. It was from beneath the road, like the blacktop itself was groaning, trying to wake up from 1,000-year sleep. I slowed down, and that's when I saw it. There, stretching across the highway, was a wall. Not bricks or concrete. This thing looked like a curtain made of fog and shadows, thick and swirling, with shapes moving inside it. Figures, dozens of them. They didn't come out. They didn't wave. They just stood there, watching, waiting. I tried to back up, but the truck wouldn't move. Transmission locked up solid. Radio started buzzing again, then cut to static, and then her voice. Soft. Real calm. "You've been running a long time, driver," she said. But the highway always remembers. Then I felt it. Cold fingers on the back of my neck. Just resting there. Not grabbing, not hurting, just claiming. I spun around, nothing there. Cab was empty, but the fingers? Still there. Like the air had hands. I reached up and my skin felt cold, damp, like I'd been standing in a freezer. Then the curtain across the road started to part, slow and silent, and for a second, just a flash, I saw what was behind it. It wasn't more road. It was an eye. One single, massive eye, staring right into me. Not at me. Into me. Looking through. Every lie I ever told, every mile I ever drove, every bad decision I tried to forget. And I swear on every tire I've ever changed that I knew me. Then the curtain slammed shut, the lights vanished, and just like that my truck roared back to life. I hit reverse, spun that wheel, and got the hell out of there so fast my trailer nearly kissed a cactus. Didn't stop driving for 4 straight hours. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe right. And ever since then, every reflection I catch, rear view mirror, chrome fuel tank, even my own damn sunglasses, I see that eye again. Just for a second. Looking, judging, remembering. I don't think I stumbled into something I wasn't supposed to. I think I was led there, like I'd finally earned the right to see behind the veil. This ain't just about some ghost or cursed road anymore. This goes deeper, bigger. Like there's a whole world riding right alongside ours, tucked just out of sight, and every now and then the highway slips. And folks like me, folks who spend our lives behind the wheel alone with our demons, we're the ones that catch glimpses. Maybe that's the real cost of this life, not the fuel prices, not the wear on your spine. Maybe the toll you pay is your soul, 1 mile at a time. And I think I'm just about paid up. It was around 2:30 in the morning, somewhere along Route 89, when I realized the road signs were lying to me. I'd been driving for hours, same direction, no turns, no stops, just the open road ahead. But every mile marker I passed read the same number, 257. At first I figured maybe I was just tired seeing things, so I snapped on the cab light, grabbed my logbook, and checked my last fuel stop. I should have been well past mile 290 by then. That's when the CB crackled. A voice came through, garbled at first, but then it cleared up, too clear. "Driver," it said, "don't look behind you." My heart stopped. I hadn't keyed the mic. No one was supposed to be out there. I stared at the CB like it had grown teeth. Then the voice came back, softer this time. "If you look, it'll see you." And then, static. I was frozen, hands clenched on the wheel, eyes locked on the road ahead. I didn't dare check the mirrors. I don't know what the hell it meant by it, but something deep inside me, some animal instinct buried in my gut, told me to listen. So I kept going. Every few minutes I'd pass another damn 257 mile marker. Same busted sign, same crooked post, same weird scorch mark in the grass like lightning had struck the same place again and again. I started talking to myself out loud, just to stay sane. But even that didn't feel right. My voice sounded off, slower, like I was underwater. That's when I noticed something moving alongside the truck, out the corner of my eye, just past the shoulder. At first it looked like shadows, stretching weird in the headlights. Then I realized they were feet, bare feet, running. Not one person, dozens, maybe hundreds. All of them keeping pace with my rig, their faces just out of view. I floored it, hit 80, 90. Didn't matter. They kept up. I was in a full-blown panic now, sweating, heart pounding, trying not to glance to the side. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the shadows vanished. The road twisted in a way it shouldn't have, like it curled in on itself, and I slammed on the brakes just in time to avoid driving straight into a massive ravine. No guardrails, no signs, just a black pit in the earth where the road should have been. I sat there, engine idling, breathing like I'd just outrun the devil himself. When I finally got the courage to look in the side mirror, I saw my own face. But it wasn't right. My reflection was smiling. Not like a normal smile either. Too wide, too many teeth, like it was stretching skin that didn't belong to it. And right before it vanished, it whispered through the glass, "Told you not to look." I ain't told many people this part. 'cause I don't even know how to explain it. But I swear after that night, things in the truck started changing. Little stuff at first. My air freshener dangling the wrong direction. Glove box open when I know I closed it. Then bigger stuff. Fuel gauge staying full no matter how far I drove. GPS showing roads I've never heard of. Logbook pages written in someone else's handwriting. And ever since that night on 89, the clocks don't work right. They all freeze at 2:57 a.m. Every night, without fail. It's like I'm stuck in a loop, caught in a snare that winds tighter every time I put the key in the ignition. But I can't stop driving, not anymore. I don't think the road will let me. And if I do stop, if I try to sleep for real, try to shut it all out, I think whatever's been running beside me all this time, it's gonna finally catch up. And I don't think it wants a ride. I think it wants me. It was last Thursday night when I finally got desperate enough to try and outrun it, whatever it is. I pulled off onto a service road somewhere near the Colorado border, where the dirt's red and the air smells like rust and ozone. I told myself I was going to ditch the truck, walk into the desert, and disappear for a while. Thought maybe if I left the rig behind, all the weirdness would stop. But the second I killed the engine, everything around me went dead silent. No wind, no insects, not even the ticking of the engine cooling down. Just this eerie, thick silence, like the whole world was holding its breath. I grabbed my duffel, stepped out of the cab, and immediately felt like I wasn't alone. The air was heavy. Wrong. The kind of pressure you feel right before a tornado touches down, or just after someone walks over your grave. I took maybe 5 steps when I heard gravel crunch behind me. Turned around. Nothing there. But my boot prints in the dirt? There. Were more of them now. Footsteps that weren't mine, walking right alongside mine, same direction, like something invisible was following me stride for stride. I kept walking, heart pounding, eyes darting all over the place. That's when I saw the headlights. Not mine, these were old. Dim. Flickering like candles in the fog. Coming straight toward me with no sound. I ducked behind a rock, watched as this rusted-out semi rolled by slow, its wheels not even touching the ground. I swear on everything I've ever hauled, it was floating. In the driver's seat was a man, or what was left of one. His face was shriveled, skin stretched tight over bone, eyes hollow like they'd been scooped out with spoons. But his hands were moving, shifting gears, steering like he still had somewhere to be. And hanging from the rearview mirror, my lucky keychain. The one I lost 2 weeks ago near Amarillo. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Just crouched there in the dark while that ghost truck rolled past and disappeared into the dust like it had never been there. When I finally made it back to my rig, the cab light was on, door wide open, and the engine purring like a kitten. Like it never stopped running. But here's the thing, I took the keys with me, had them in my damn pocket the whole time. I climbed back inside, closed the door, and checked the dash. The radio was on again. And playing? A recording of my voice. A part of the story I ain't told anyone yet. Something I never said out loud. But there it was, coming through the speakers like I'd just finished talking. That's when I realized I ain't been telling a story. I've been writing one. And something out there's been reading it back to me, piece by piece, like it's watching from the shadows and scribbling down every move I make. The scariest part? I think I'm getting close to the end. The truck feels heavier now, like I'm hauling more than freight. Sometimes I see shadows moving in the sleeper cab when I check the mirror, and when I close my eyes at night, I don't see black. I see roads, endless roads, twisted and wrong, with signs that point nowhere and lines that slither like snakes. I think the highway's alive. I think it's got a will of its own, and I think I've been driving right into its mouth this whole damn time. I ain't sure how much longer I can stay ahead of it, but I gotta keep rolling, because if I stop, if I let it catch me, I don't think there'll be anything left of me to tell this story. The next few nights blurred together like a fever dream. I'd drive for hours, sometimes days, and still end up passing the same landmarks, same busted gas station with a Pepsi machine older than sin, same dead coyote lying by mile marker 183, Same damn billboard for Miss Lila's house. Of curiosities, exit never. I stopped believing I was making any progress. I could have sworn I was trapped in some loop, like a vinyl record that won't stop skipping, playing the same beat of horror over and over. But here's the kicker. I started getting visitors. Not real people, not hitchhikers. These were things that showed up when I was alone on a back road with no lights but my own. First was the little girl, maybe 7 or 8, standing in the middle of the road wearing a nightgown so white it practically glowed. I slammed the brakes, tires screaming loud enough to wake the dead. When the truck finally stopped, she was gone. Just gone. I stepped out, heart thumping like a war drum, and found a single muddy footprint on my bumper. Small, barefoot, headed inward, into the truck. I checked the sleeper cab, looking under every blanket and behind every crate. Nothing. Not a trace. But all night I could hear soft giggling coming from behind the seats. Every time I looked back, it stopped. And the next morning, I found my wallet sitting on the dash. Open. Every picture of my family was gone. That messed with me, deep. After that, it got worse. Way worse. One night I was refueling at a 24-hour station I'd never seen before. No GPS record, no signage, no other customers, just a single old man at the register reading a newspaper that had no words on it, just pages and pages of blurry black and white faces. I asked how far to the next town, and he looked up at me, eyes pure white, no pupils, no iris, just milky orbs like cracked eggs. He said, "You'll get there when you're meant to, driver. Just keep paying the fare." Then he rang me up. For gas I never pumped, and handed me a receipt covered in symbols, runes or something. Not English, not anything I've ever seen. I kept that receipt. Still got it in my glove box. Ain't never showed it to nobody, not even the truck stop. Priests in Oklahoma that bless rigs with holy water every Friday. Don't want them looking at it and telling me what I already know. I'm marked. Ever since then, I don't sleep right. I'll close my eyes for a second and wake up 20 miles down the road. Engine running, radio blasting static mixed with whispering voices that speak in reverse. I started recording them on my phone, trying to play them back forward. And let me tell you something, you don't ever want to do that. One clip, just one, and I damn near threw my phone out the window. It said, "We ride with you now. Keep driving, or the truck will." What the hell does that even mean? I think the rig's been changing too. Small stuff at first. The air vents blowing cold even when turned off. The lights flickering in rhythm with my heartbeat. And then the steering wheel. It turned on its own once. Just a little. Just enough to nudge me back into my lane after I started drifting toward a tree. Like it didn't want me to crash. Not yet. Like it still needed me alive. I don't know how much longer I can keep going. I've started seeing things in daylight now, mirages that don't vanish, ghost towns that weren't on any map, with people inside staring at me like they know who I am, like they've been waiting, and I can't help but feel like every mile I drive ain't getting me any closer to home. It's driving me deeper into somewhere else, somewhere I was never meant to be, but I'm already too far in. And the highway don't care if you're scared. It just wants you to keep driving. I remember the moment I realized I wasn't the only one stuck out here. It was a little after midnight, somewhere in the Nevada desert, when I saw a set of headlights way off in the distance behind me, far. Too bright for a normal rig, more like searchlights, cutting through the dust like they were looking for something. Or someone. At first I was relieved. Thought maybe it was another driver, someone I could flag down, swap stories with, maybe get some confirmation that I ain't losing my damn mind. But the longer those lights stayed behind me, the less comforting they felt. They never got closer, never dropped back, just always hanging there in my mirrors, about a half-mile back, like a predator pacing me. I got nervous, started taking random exits, looping through side roads and old bypasses, trying to shake 'em. No matter where I went, those lights followed. Never speeding up, never slowing down, just always there. Then the CB crackled again, just once, and I swear it wasn't my voice this time. It was hers, my wife. She's been gone 3 years. Cancer took her fast, but there it was. Her voice, clear as day, like she was sitting in the passenger seat. "You should have come home, baby." I almost ran off the road right then and there, yanked the wheel hard, pulled off to the shoulder, and sat there breathing like I'd just climbed Everest. I was too scared to answer, too scared to key the mic. Then the static came back, louder this time, and buried underneath it was laughing. Dozens of voices, twisted together, laughing like they knew something I didn't. I grabbed the mic and yelled, "Who the hell is this?" But all I got in return was silence, then a whisper. "We're already inside." That was it. I shut off the CB, ripped it out of the console, tossed it onto the floor, and sat there staring out at the desert, trying not to cry. I hadn't cried in years. Not since her funeral. But that night broke me a little. I decided to sleep right there, parked just off the road, engine off, windows cracked. I figured I'd had enough for one night. But the second I shut my eyes, the truck shook, violently, like something massive had jumped up on the trailer. I scrambled for the keys, heart hammering, turned on every light I could, and looked out into the dark. And I saw them. Dozens of figures, just outside the glow of my headlights, standing still. No movement, no sound, just watching. I blinked, and they were gone, vanished like smoke. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I drove till sunrise, hands clenched, tight on the wheel, jaw sore from grinding my teeth. When the sun finally came up, I thought maybe, that meant it was over. That whatever had attached itself to me only came out in the dark. But then I looked at my windshield. Dead center, written in dust, were 4 words. "You drive, we ride." I don't know what that means. Not exactly. But I get the feeling. It ain't just a threat, it's a promise. I think the truck's not really mine anymore. I think I'm just the skin it wears, the hands on the wheel. And every time I consider pulling over and walking away for good, I hear that engine purr, feel that familiar hum in the floorboards, and I know, deep down, I ain't driving this thing, it's driving me. Some nights, when the highway is quiet and the stars are hiding behind thick clouds, I swear the truck talks to me. Not with words you can hear, but in feelings, in flashes, like a damn movie playing out behind my eyelids. One night, I was hauling a load through Montana, the road stretching endless and cold, and the silence in the cab was so heavy it pressed down on my chest. Then, out of nowhere, the radio flickered to life, not on any station I'd ever heard, but a soft voice humming, a lullaby. It was haunting, the kind of tune that crawls under your skin and settles in your bones. I couldn't tell if it was the truck or something else, but the more that song played, the more I felt like I was being pulled away from reality. I tried turning it off, but the dial spun wild like possessed. That night, I dreamed of a little girl with black hair and eyes like coal sitting on the edge of the road waving me closer. I was frozen, torn between stepping out and staying put. When I woke up, the air in the cab was thick with the smell of lilacs, my wife's favorite flower. No lilacs for miles around, just dust and diesel. That's when I realized the truck wasn't just haunted by ghosts. It was haunted by memories. Memories that refused to stay buried. Every mile I put behind me, every town I passed, seemed to bring up pieces of a life I thought I'd left behind. Pieces I didn't want to see again. There were nights when I swear I saw faces pressed against the windows. Faces from my past. People I'd wronged, people I'd loved, all trying to tell me something I couldn't quite hear. And then came the nights the truck would stall out in the middle of nowhere, engine cut dead, lights flickering like a dying candle. I'd sit there in silence, listening to the wind howl through the empty fields, waiting for something to happen. And it always did. Sometimes footsteps circling the rig, slow and deliberate. sometimes a whisper right next to my ear, breath cold like winter frost. And sometimes the truck would start back up on its own, tires rolling before I even touched the pedal. I don't know if it's the truck's way of keeping me alive or just the start of something worse. But one thing's for sure, I ain't alone out here. Whatever's riding with me, whatever's tangled up in these wires and steel, it's patient. It's waiting for the moment when I stop listening, when I stop fighting, and I hope that moment don't come soon. Because out here, on the endless highway, the shadows don't just ride shotgun, they drive. And if you ever hear a knock on your window late at night, remember this story. Remember the truck that won't let go. And whatever you do, don't invite it in. There was one night, maybe the worst night, when I found myself on a highway that didn't exist. No signs, no exits, just two cracked lanes stretching through a forest that seemed to breathe. Yeah, breathe. The trees moved like lungs swelling and shrinking, branches creaking like old bones, and the fog was so thick I couldn't see more than 5 feet in front of my rig. I slowed down, creeping forward like a blind man feeling his way through hell. Then my headlights hit something, a person, or at least I thought it was a person. Middle of the lane, standing completely still. Pale, no clothes, eyes wide open, mouth stretched in this impossible grin, like their skin was too tight. I slammed the brakes, tires screeching, whole cab lurching forward. But I didn't hit them. When I looked again, they were gone. Just gone. No sound, no trace, not even footprints in the damp asphalt. That's when I heard it. Scratching. Soft at first, then harder, coming from the roof of the cab. I ain't ashamed to admit I froze. Just sat there, barely breathing, watching the ceiling like I expected it to cave in. Then I felt the pressure shift. Something heavy slid down from the roof to the windshield. And when I looked up, there was a face looking back at me. Not human. Not even close. Black pits for eyes, nose like a slit, mouth too wide with teeth that looked like broken glass. It just stared. I reached for the gear shift without breaking eye contact, and the second my hand touched it, the thing smiled. Then it vanished. I floored it. Didn't care what was ahead. Didn't care if the road dropped off into the ocean. I needed out. The forest started to close in, trees leaning inward like they were trying to swallow me whole. Branches scratched at the trailer like claws, and the fog got thicker, darker. Then, right when I thought I was done for, I burst out onto a clear stretch of highway under the stars, like none of it had happened. Like I'd just driven through a nightmare and somehow made it out alive. But the strangest part? I looked at my dashboard clock, and it hadn't moved. I'd been in that hell for hours, but it was still 3:17 a.m. Just like it was when I saw the first tree. The truck's odometer showed no distance gained, no miles, like I hadn't moved an inch. That's when I started to realize this highway, it bends time. Reality. It don't care about your logbook or your fuel gauge. It decides where you go and when you go there. I started noticing changes in myself too. My reflection didn't always match my movements. I'd blink, and the guy staring back at me in the mirror would keep looking. Sometimes he smiled when I didn't. Sometimes I'd find things in the cab that didn't belong to me. Photographs of families I don't know. Receipts from diners I've never eaten at. A kid's toy under the passenger seat. Like I was borrowing lives that weren't mine. Like the truck was taking me through other people's stories, their last moments, their final drives, and sometimes their regrets. I ain't slept more than 2 hours at a time in months. Can't. Not with the things that crawl through. My dreams. Not with the sound of the CB radio whispering names I've never spoken, begging me to stop, begging me to pick 'em up. I keep driving. I don't know why anymore. Habit, maybe. Or fear of what happens if I stop. But if you ever see me out there, if you're on a quiet stretch of road and a black rig with ghosted flames pulls up beside you, don't look at the driver. Don't try to wave. Just slow down. Let me pass. And whatever you do, don't follow. Because once you start down this road, there ain't no map that'll bring you back.